Are you throwing away money on rent, or is now the right time for you to buy? Let's break it down and chat about it. My promise to you is by the end of this video, you'll know whether renting or buying a home is the right move for you and your situation in today's market. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Ian Perler. I run a very small but mighty team out of KW Empower, located in the mainline and greater Philadelphia region. But if you know someone, or if you're looking outside of that area, this definitely will apply to you. And if you want me to connect you with a trusted partner in those neighborhoods outside of our area, please let me know. I'm always happy to make a great connection so that you're always in good hands. So I've been selling real estate now for over 20 years, which is crazy to say, but we've helped countless friends, family members, clients go through this exact situation. Kind of breaking down if today is the right day for them to consider buying a home, or if they need to get their ducks in a row for the future, or maybe it just makes sense for them to rent because of their current life situation. So let's dive into the pros and cons of each. We'll go through what makes sense about buying versus renting in today's market. And then we'll also chat a little bit more kind of about some situations that I've seen that might be helpful for you to know about. All right. So why is it good to rent, right? I'm sure a lot of agents aren't going to say that, but sometimes it just makes sense to rent. So it provides a lot of flexibility, right? It's pretty easy to get up and move, right? You might have a 6-month lease, a year lease, a month-to-month lease, gives you tons of flexibility, right? Sometimes the upfront cost of renting is lower than buying a home, right? You always hear about large down payments needed to buy a house, which is a whole nother video about what you actually need to buy a house and to get a mortgage. But generally it's, at least in our area, first, last month's rent, and then security deposit. And then some landlords in our area only do like a flat security deposit, and it's not a whole month's rent. So, your upfront out-of-pocket cost might be lower than if you were buying a house. And then the other thing is, you might not want to be responsible for the heater, your water heater, your roof, windows, broken pipes. So the ease of not having to worry about maintenance, is a big plus for a lot of people who don't really want to deal with that. So what are the cons of renting? So you don't build equity is always the biggest one, right? You're paying someone else's mortgage, they're building equity in their home, and over time they're building wealth through real estate, and you're helping them do that. Your rent can increase year over year depending on your lease. It might be already predetermined, or the landlord might have the ability to just raise the rent to whatever they want when your lease is up for renewal. So you don't have control over that. And generally over time, rent goes up. So you're paying more to live in the same space. And you also have the ability, or limited ability, to personalize a space. So yes, you can hang up some pictures and photos and kind of make the space your own. But if you want to have a cool green wall like I do, can't really do that in a rental property without the permission of the landlord. And most of the times they don't want to do that. Or they'll ask you, if you do that, to put it back. So you're paying to do it and then paying to fix it. So those are kind of the cons of renting. All right, let's talk about the pros of buying a home. So the big one, kind of like similar to renting, the big con in renting was you don't build equity. Well, the big pro in buying a house is that you do build equity. And so you're building equity every time you make a mortgage payment. You own that, you're building your equity up as the value of the house goes up, and also as how much you owe on the house goes down. You're building equity, which is helping your future and building your wealth. Owning a house provides a lot of stability. Your mortgage payments are fixed. So if you have a fixed interest rate, your interest rate is fixed. So your amount that you're paying every month for that is fixed. Now, your real estate taxes might go up slightly year over year, and insurance might go up slightly year over year, but the actual main mortgage payment is fixed and very stable. So it's really good if you can afford it today, and over time, it's a really great way to know like that your payment's not really going to go up as significantly as your rent potentially could. It creates a lot more freedom. You have the freedom to do whatever you want in your house. You can remodel it. You can put in a new kitchen, new appliances. You can paint whatever color you want on the wall, get a cool light fixture. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. You own it, right? And then there's also the potential for tax benefits. So you can reduce the mortgage interest and also your property taxes off of your income taxes. So you do save a lot of money that way on your taxes. So that's an extra benefit of being a homeowner. And then I would say the last one is very far thinking, but capital gains. So if you own a house as your primary residence, as an individual, you have $250,000, and as a couple, $500,000 in equity that when you sell, you do not pay $1 in federal taxes on. So if you buy a house today for $100,000 and you sell it 20 years from now, or you fix it up and you sell it 5 years from now, and let's say you built, now the house is worth $600,000 and you're a married couple, right? So you paid 100, it's worth 600. This math isn't perfect, by the way, but just doing it real quick. So obviously that's a $500,000 amount of equity. You would not pay any capital gains on that. So it's a pretty awesome tool to build wealth, and a lot of people will do that with their primary residence. Again, that's another awesome video that we'll have to shoot for you. So what are the cons of being a homeowner? Right? There are some cons, right? So you do sometimes have some higher upfront costs when you're buying a house. So you might have a larger down payment, you are gonna have some closing costs, and you are gonna have some fees that you're gonna have to pay when you're buying a house. Sometimes it's not much more than your down payment on your rent, which surprises a lot of people. Sometimes it's only a couple $1,000s more, but there is the potential for higher upfront costs compared to renting. You are responsible for everything in the house, so that can be a con, right? If the heating system breaks and it's the middle of winter, you're gonna have to fix it and pay for that to be repaired. So there are ways to mitigate that as well, but obviously that is a con, right? You're responsible for everything within the house. And then there's a little bit less flexibility. If you have a 3-month lease, you can move in 3 months. If you buy a house, it's a little bit harder to buy a house and then move 3 months later. Financially, it wouldn't really make much sense. So generally, the rule of thumb for that is usually 3 to 5 years. If you know you're going to be in a particular location for about 3 to 5 years, it makes sense. There are some other reasons to buy. If you're going to be there less than that, that might make sense. But generally, again, rule of thumb, 3 to 5 years, it usually makes sense to buy over rent if you do any of those online rent calculators. That's generally the range that they fall in if you're just looking apples to apples financially. All right, so let's talk about some of those key factors. I know I kind of dove a little bit ahead when I started talking about the 3 to 5 year range. So the nice thing, again, that is good about owning a home is you're going to start building credit when you make those mortgage payments every month, right? You're renting, for the most part, that does not count towards your credit. You are also paying down the balance every time you make a payment on your mortgage. You're paying down the balance, so you're building equity in the property, and hopefully the value of the home is also going up at the same time. It does provide a lot more stability. Your payment, again, is fixed. So financially, generally, it makes a lot more sense to buy a home long-term if you're going to stay within that home, right? And then there's market conditions. So let's say interest rates are high, maybe you can't afford the home that you want, so you have to buy a little bit of a smaller home to keep your payment where you want it to be. And so that could be a negative effect, that you might have to move in 5 years if your family's expanding. So again, these are things that you want to consider, right? Where do you see yourself today? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, are you moving to a neighborhood or an area for the first time because you got a job? Well, it might make sense to rent for 6 months to a year. See if you like the area, to see if you like the particular neighborhood. If you're moving into like a major metropolitan city like Philadelphia, there are countless neighborhoods you can move into, and all of them are very different, right? So if you're coming from out of state, you might want to either come a couple times to get a feel for the space and lean on an agent to help you. Or you might want to rent for 6 months and then explore the city, feel the vibes, see what you like, and then buy, right? If you know that you're going to stay there for 5-10 years, you know, maybe it makes sense to rent for 6 months to a year to get a really good feel for the neighborhood before you do that long-term commitment. And again, so these are all things that you need to work through and kind of speak about. Again, really good if you dive in deep with a local agent that has expertise that can walk you through that, right? And talk you through it. Everyone's situation is so different. Everyone's finances are so different. And everyone's goals are different. And the main thing is you got to think about what your goals are for your future, right? Real estate is a great way to build wealth. It's an amazing tool. I've seen amazing things happen for many of my friends and family members and clients who have bought. But I've also had clients a couple months ago who were moving here from New York. They decided to rent for their first year and get to know the neighborhoods better. And I think it was a great move. They found a very affordable rental, one that they could pay a very low rent on. They found something that was very affordable for them, and they're renting for a year and saving more money, so they have a larger down payment, which will help them with their payment on their future house. And so I think it was a really good move on their part, so that they learned the city, they learned if they liked it, you know, they got to explore the city, different neighborhoods, and in the meantime, they're putting all their ducks in a row to buy, and they'll probably stay in that place for 5 to 10 years. So waiting a year to get all their ducks in a row and make sure that they're making the best decision for themselves is really a smart thing to do. So let's summarize all this, because I was ranting. I'm a rambler. I know that about myself. But hopefully you're getting a lot out of this. And again, feel free to message me if you have questions. I'm happy to answer them or try to give you some advice. So renting, great with flexibility. Sometimes it might be a little bit less expensive, but you're not building long-term wealth for yourself and or your family, right? You're paying someone else for them to build equity. You don't have as much personalization as a renter, right? And you don't have as much maintenance to worry about as a renter. So let's talk about the buying side. You're building wealth and equity for yourself. You get to customize and do whatever you want inside your home, right? Make it your own, which is always a cool thing. But you are responsible for the house. You're responsible for the roof. You're responsible for any of the work and maintenance that needs to be done. So think about it. Think about where you're at in your life. Think about if it makes sense. If you're worried about interest rates being too high or prices are being too high and the market's going to crash, that's a very different question than if it makes sense for you to buy or sell right now. If you're worried about interest rates, the main thing to really focus on when you're buying a home is how much your monthly payment is, because that is the fixed number and what that gets you. Does that get you a $300,000 house? And in the neighborhood you're looking for, is that all you are looking for and you can afford that payment, great. Because when interest rates come down, when and if they do, that house became a lot more affordable because you can refinance. Now let's say interest rates shoot up in that same scenario. I know I'm going on a tangent here. In that same scenario, interest rates shoot up, your payment's fixed. Rent in that area might go up, but your payment's fixed. Now, if interest rates are 4% today and 5% a year from now, and you have a 4% interest rate, your payment's fixed. The people that are buying that same house at that same price, or maybe they're paying a little bit more or less depending on where the market is, you're doing really great. So, again, there's so much that goes into real estate. That's why I'm making these videos. I hope they're helpful. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight of renting versus buying. Feel free to subscribe below. We're going to do some more videos on some of the other subjects that I mentioned throughout this video. And again, if there's something you want to see, something you have questions about, please reach out to me. I really hope that I can help answer any questions you have and be your trusted source for all things real estate. Whether you're buying or selling a home, we are here to help. My name is Ian Perler with the Ian Perler Team at Keller Williams Empower. Feel free to reach out, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have an amazing day. Thanks for watching.